Hi there. I want to show you quickly how to make fermented hummus. And probably quickly is not the right word for it because there's a 2-week process to this, but it's not a lot of work. So the reason it's fermented hummus is because the chickpeas are going to be fermented for 2 weeks. And this is a very simple process which I'm about to show you. You need a can of cooked, unsalted chickpeas, or they're also known as garbanzo beans. And what you're going to do is you're going to open the can and you're going to rinse them so that you just have the straight chickpea. Okay, so then what you need to do is a basic fermentation technique. So you need a jar, and we're going to use some sea salt. I'm going to use some apple cider vinegar as well. You could use just all sea salt, but it makes it very salty tasting, which isn't so bad when you're making hummus because you can always adjust the salt that you would normally add, but I don't think you ever add as much as what is typically put in a salt brine for fermentation. So we're going to use less salt and use some apple cider vinegar because this will inhibit the bad bacteria, allowing the good bacteria to grow and this to ferment properly. So that's all we're really going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is add the chickpeas to our jar. And try not to spill too many of them on the counter. And we are spilling some, but that's okay. And then we're going to add some spring water. So we always use spring water for fermentation. We don't want the chlorine in there. That does not help the beneficial bacteria. And we just want to add enough water to cover the chickpeas. Then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. You can add more if you want, like we could add another tablespoon, that's okay. All this is going to do is lower the pH so that it doesn't make it helpful for bad bacteria to grow. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a teaspoon of sea salt. And I'm using the pink Himalayan sea salt. All right, so that's all you really need. Now we're going to screw the lid on tightly. And it's very important that it be screwed on tightly because we don't want a lot of air in there. So now you can see the water level is here. We always want to leave some space here for the gas buildup. So we don't want too much space. So that's why I put more water in than I needed. I could have put in less. But so we have the water level about there. Then we have a space for the gas buildup. We've screwed the lid on tightly. And now what's going to happen is certain bacteria are going to grow, build up the gas. That's going to prevent these from rotting or getting any mold or bad bacteria. And in 2 weeks, they will be fermented, and then we can make the hummus. Now, if you want a simpler technique that doesn't have it really truly fermented, but does, limit some of the gassiness, you can just soak it overnight in apple cider vinegar and some sea salt like this, and rinse it off and then make your hummus. That's a little quicker, but you're not getting a true ferment. There's not enough beneficial bacteria built up in overnight. So if you let it go for at least 2 weeks, you're going to get lots of beneficial bacteria. All right, so it has been 2 weeks since we started fermenting these chickpeas. And so now we're ready to take the lid off and use them. And this is the fun part because you never know how much gas is built up in there and therefore how hard it is to get this off. But you can hear, I don't know if you can hear that, there's the gas. Okay. And when we lift this up, we're going to have a bit of a pop. Okay, so there's our fermented chickpeas, and what we're going to do is we're going to drain these, and then we're going to use them in a recipe. So they're ready to go, and we don't have to do anything else to them. They have been activated with good bacteria. There's some enzymes present, and so they're ready to rock. So now that we have fermented the chickpeas, I'm going to show you how to make a fermented hummus. So it's not too different from regular hummus. The only difference is that the chickpeas have been fermented. So that's the only difference. So what we have here is, this was originally 1 cup of dried chickpeas, so it's been cooked. So it's about 2 cups now. We have half a cup of tahini, which is a sesame paste. We have 2 cloves of garlic. We have olive oil. We're going to use a 1/4 cup. We're going to use a teaspoon of cumin, but you could also use paprika. And you could put more cumin. Some call for as much as a tablespoon for this amount of chickpeas. Again, this is a taste preference, and the same with the paprika. And of course, we're also going to have sea salt and pepper to taste. And we're also going to be adding some lemon juice. So I've juiced a lemon in here. It's come out to about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup. Now these are tangier because they've been fermented. They're not as bland as a regular cooked chickpea. So when you do this, the only consideration that you have to think about, in making it different from a regular hummus is, are you going to add as much lemon juice? You could also use apple cider vinegar. You don't have to use lemon juice. So the acid taste is going to be adjusted based on, after all the other ingredients are added, we'll add the lemon juice and adjust it to taste. All right, so the process is pretty simple. We're going to start by adding our tahini to the food processor. And we're going to add 1/4 cup of olive oil. And then we're just going to put chickpeas in. Now, some methods suggest that you peel the chickpeas, and this will make it smoother and creamier. That's a lot of work, number one. But number two, the highest phytonutrient content is always in the skin of whatever fruit or vegetable or it is. So if you remove that skin, you're removing some very valuable nutrients. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm also going to toss in my garlic. And I'm going to put in the cumin. Okay. And then I'm just going to turn this on, and this will be a little noisy. Now, as you can see, some of them are sticking up to the top. So what you want to do is smoosh those down, and this could probably use a little more liquid, which is of course going to come from the lemon juice. So I'm going to add a bit of the lemon juice now to give this a little more liquid, and then that will help make it be smoother. Okay, so this is not too smooth yet. As you can see, it's fairly chunky. So what you can do is you can now taste it. So if you taste it, then you can decide whether or not you want to add more lemon juice. So this could easily take more lemon juice. So I'll put the rest of that in. And then the other thing you can do is add some more olive oil if you want. And this will make it creamier. You could also add more tahini if you like. I would also season it at this point. So I'm just going to add a little sea salt. I'm using the pink Himalayan sea salt. And of course, I'm going to add my pepper. Love having pepper in here. It helps the absorption of all the nutrients. Okay, and now we can put this back on. Okay, and then if we look at the texture, oops, it's still it's softer, but it's still a little chunky. So another thing you can do, if you don't want to keep adding olive oil or tahini, which of course has a lot of fat in it as well, what you can do is add a bit of water. If you like the taste as it is now, so I'm just going to taste it. Very nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I want it a little smoother, so I'm going to add a little bit of water. Okay, so I'm just going to add maybe a tablespoon of water here. And what you want to do is you want to be able to see that the blade of the food processor is really moving the stuff around, because that's what's going to make it smoother. Okay, so I turned the camera off so that this could really run and you didn't have to watch it just running. And as you will see, this is a lot smoother now. So this is softer and smoother. It still has, little visible chunks, but again, that's because of the skin of the hummus. But that's the best part from a nutrition perspective, so that's a good thing. Now, again, you can play with these ingredients as you see fit to get it to your tastes, but those are the basic ingredients. You can also add other things to it. You can add roasted red peppers, you can add different vegetables, you can add some sauerkraut if you want for more fermented food benefit. So we've already got the fermented chickpeas in there, but you can add more. You could add kimchi, would go really nicely with this, if you just chopped up some kimchi and threw it in. So now that it's done, all you have to do is transfer it to a container and store it in the fridge. It'll keep for several days. And then the other thing that you can do if you don't think you're going to eat it all at once, is put some of it into a container for the freezer. And that's basically how you make fermented hummus. As long as you have the fermented chickpeas, you can make fermented hummus. And it tastes pretty much just like regular hummus, only you're getting some extra beneficial bacteria in your hummus that you wouldn't normally get. So I hope you give it a try. I know it's a bit of a pain to ferment the chickpeas over 2-week period, but you just stick them in the jar, and when you're ready to make your hummus. It doesn't take that long. All right, so I hope you enjoy this.